to 4 dwelling units. So couple that with the idea that you're going to reduce green space, increase building size, and eliminate off-street parking. And any residential property in Baltimore could be purchased and converted
So it's
into
almost
4
like
dwelling units.
commercializing. And I remember, and you correct me on this because I'm not an expert in this, but if you have a property, a residential property, I believe that at least at one point, I'm not sure exactly what it is now, you can have a maximum of 4 unrelated people. And that's because people, well, if you want to do, let's say if you have a property and you want to make it an assisted living facility or something else, there's a limit on the number of unrelated people. And that's not directly related to this, but the point being that we want to regulate how properties are used and how crowded things can be, right? That's one of the issues related to zoning. And one of the things
we also want to try to preserve home ownership opportunities.
Right. So now we have, and this is a national trend too. We have private equity groups and others going into cities like Baltimore, buying up properties, investing in them solely so they can make money and squeeze as many people in and make as much money as they can in these properties.
And convert them to rental units, which takes them off the market for home buyers. And here's the thing. Home buyers cannot compete against these investors. I've been involved in real estate for 35 years. When an investor comes in, they'll offer a cash deal, settle in 30 days, no home inspection, and no appraisal. An individual home buyer cannot compete against that. They need to get a home inspection. They need to get a mortgage, so there's going to be an appraisal. This actually opens the floodgates for investors to come in to buy up homes that are relatively affordable in many neighborhoods in Baltimore City and then convert them to rental units, removing them from the inventory available for home buyers.
I just say what happened in my neighborhood of Poppleton. One of the things that we recognized was when the city came in with eminent domain and displaced all of our homeowners, over 100 homeowners. What they bought with bringing apartments, that lowered our property values. We found out that our neighborhood was rezoned like from a residential to a transient, more of a transient neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So it decreased our property values, and they said that was the cause, because of so much density coming in versus the home ownership.
Yeah, and you all have driven around town and you've seen these signs up, we buy houses, we buy houses. Now it's the point where on television, you watch TV, particularly local programming, we buy houses, sell your house. And this is, I saw this when I was staying in Atlanta some years ago, and now it's come here to Baltimore the last so many years. It is the beginning of decline. It's the beginning of decline. It's the beginning of the death of the dream, the so-called, what we call American dream of home ownership and so forth. That's what's happening here in Baltimore. And I cannot for the life of me understand why. Well, I do know why. There's certain people in government who are promoting this. I dare I say, let's look at their campaign finance reports. I'm not supposed to say. Well, no, I am going to say that. That's what. Let's keep it real, okay? Because, and here's the thing, and we'll finish. We're going to hit those other bills too. But to me, as I've gone around the city, it is clear that the overwhelming majority of people that I know who are homeowners in Baltimore don't want this. If they know about it at all, they don't want it. So if most people who are homeowners, who've been here, legacy residents for years and years and years, are opposed, why are they doing it anyway? Not only that, but the fact that, Jody, you and I were talking about this. They're trying to push this thing through super, super fast. So that really bothers me. Again, I want you all to hear this, pass the word. Join us. The lines are lit up, but call again if you can't get through. 410-319-8888. If you've seen in your neighborhood signs going up saying we buy houses, right? I want you to call in.
And, Sonia and I were at the hearing yesterday, and we sat through an hour and a half of listening to proponents, people in favor, including the chairman of the committee, the council president. Then they had a panel of people that were hand-selected who were there to speak in favor. Then when they got to the members of the community who were there to testify in opposition, they said, oh, and they didn't put any time limits on these proponents.
Right.
When we got up to talk, they said, oh, and you have 2 minutes to speak. And
Right.
these are really complicated bills. And really, frankly, I really blew my stack because that is not the way to treat citizens in Baltimore City. And it's not the, and they say, well, we really want to hear from you. But they don't want to hear from us. They barely paid attention to any of the testimony that was presented. And instead, they were criticizing us for saying, no, we want more time and we think you should slow this process down.
Yeah, it was even to allowing us a 3 minute, but to sit there all of this time and listen to them, it's a slap in the face, that we even show up. You had people who were there that were seniors who took off from work, to show up because this is how important this is to us. And for you not to value us, it's more of an indication that you don't really value your residents and who you are preparing this new future Baltimore for.
It's for somebody else. And, and I'm going to take these calls in just a moment. Rick, Tyrone, Lynn, Linda Batts, all of you, we're going to get you, I promise. This is, Jody, I remember we used to call this the filibuster. It's not a filibuster technically, but this is the tactic. When politicians, when they don't want to hear from the public for real, they spend all this time having all this talk, hoping that everybody will get tired, or everybody has to leave at some point because they don't really want to hear. And again, I direct this, and I hope some of these folks are listening to this. I really do. Some of these folks in the city government, this is not right. I was, like you, Jody, we are both, I think all three of us, we're all registered Democrats. You and I were elected Democrats. But I'm going to tell you something right now, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that this is the reason why the Democrat Party has a lot of the issues that it has. The Democrats have been accused of being very elitist, especially on the local level, right? Now, we talked a little bit about Donald Trump in the last hour, and Donald Trump's, his poll numbers have dropped a lot for a lot of reasons. But strangely enough, and this may seem really weird, but recent polling for the Democrats is even lower. It's even lower. So you can't just, next year in the midterm elections, Democrats just can't say that vote for us because Donald Trump is, he's a fascist, he's a dirty dog and all that. You've got to present I'm talking about the Democrats now and others. You got to present a reason why people should support you. And you've got to talk about, deal with where the rubber meets the road. And I've said many times that those funds that were voted in 2021 during COVID, many of us question what happened with that money. How did that affect everyday people? And what is going on in the cities like Baltimore where decisions are made that are anti-democratic, against what the majority of people want, because there's an elite group of people who feel they know better what's best for all of us. And they are redesigning Baltimore to fit their taste, not the taste of the people here who've lived here for decades and decades. I was born in Baltimore City. Some of us maybe weren't born here, but we've spent, most of our lives here. And we have family, we have friends, we have neighbors we've known for decades. And I hate to see people being pushed out. Join us, again, the number 410-319-8888. I'm going to go ahead to the phones. We've got more to talk about in terms of specifics of the bills. And we have, Linda Batts has joined us. Linda, she is the president of the Hanlon community. Linda Batts. Okay, now while we're doing that, is she there? Do we lose her? I hope not. We're gonna take all of these calls. I think Lynn wants to chime in as well. She isn't from Maryland. Okay. While we're waiting for that and these calls, Jody, why don't you finish us up on the other bills?
Well, those are the three bills that are under consideration.
But it's five altogether.
Well,
right?
yeah, but the others, the one has to do with eliminating a two-stair requirement in a high-rise building. That is less controversial, has much lower impact on residential neighborhoods that exist. And Sonia, maybe you can chime in on this. I mean, my distinct feeling at that hearing was that not only did they not want to hear the opposition, but there's this attitude of, we really know what's best here. You don't really understand what's at stake, and we think this represents the future of Baltimore. And it was really that kind of condescending attitude that came across from the council chair, from the president of the council. And again, we were made to feel like, we don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, look, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you all for listening in. The phone lines are lit. Everybody. Hank Hackman, Lynn, Tyrone, Rick, Benta. We're going to get all of you in when we come back. We're going to have this break, and we'll be right back.
Hey folks, it's Dr. Kaye from Today with Dr. Kaye. It was Margaret Mead who once said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Hey folks, we're committed to changing the world. We're committed to having good conversations. We're committed to having a good community. Get committed and join me every day, Today with Dr. Kaye from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on WEAA 88.9 FM. I will leave the light on for you.
Support for WEAA is provided by
Maryland Public Television proudly presents the 6th Annual HBCU Week. MPT presents a week of programming that celebrates historically black colleges and universities, including the premiere of Becoming Thurgood, the story of Justice Marshall's journey from Baltimore through HBCUs, Lincoln, and Howard to the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as one-on-one with Dr. David Wilson of Morgan State University. For more information and a listing of the HBCU Week programming, npt.org/HBCU.
The Maryland Department of Health. Being part of a community means looking out for each other in neighborhoods just like yours. Many people are struggling with drug addiction and may feel alone. Addiction is a chronic disease, and stigma keeps people from reaching out for help. No one should be made to feel alone. There is hope, and there is help available. For more information, stopoverdose.maryland.gov. Call or text 988.
and members like you. Thank you.
News headlines, events, podcasts, and more. WEAA.org.
Okay, we are back. Yours truly, Lawrence Bell. I'm standing in for Dr. Kaye. Please excuse my voice. I'm hoarse, and I think it's allergy or something. This is the fall season upon us. I'm fighting with it, but I'm going to continue battling because I really am interested in this topic. We're talking about a package of bills, legislation before the Baltimore City Council dealing with the future of how our city is going to look, how our communities are going to be. And I believe that these things are designed to help developers come in and gobble up our communities. So Baltimore won't look the same in the future, and it's really weird, and I hope that all of you are listening and you get involved, because we're going to talk about how you can influence the politicians down in City Hall before it's too late. The number again to join us, 410-319-8888. We're going to go to the phone lines. The phones are lit. Linda Batts. Linda, you're on the air.
I am here with you all. Good afternoon.
Well, listen, thank you. You and I talked earlier today about this. Now, you are the president of the Hanlon Improvement Association in West Baltimore. You and I talk all the time about issues. I know you weren't able to get there to the hearing, but what are your feelings about this? Because we talked about this actually over the last couple of years, this move toward these kinds of policies.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to thank Ms. Edie and Jody for the comments that they've made. This pre-election rush to push these bills through are definitely the best case scenario of inequity. The planners of these bills have used words and touted words like affordable housing and promoting equity, when in fact these bills are designed to accord privileges, preferences, and exceptions for a boutique group of individuals to the exclusion of the marginalized and the already underserved communities. It is not only undemocratic, it's a hypocrisy. It's not only undemocratic, but discriminatory what is rolling out. We talk about having an office to serve the aging, but the aging would be poorly served by not having access to parking, not having access, as all of us, to clean, quality air, sight lines, safety issues. There are a whole amalgam of impacts that will not serve our already underserved communities. You take some of these small, narrow streets like Poplar Terrace that are heavily townhoused built, and you put extra stories on top and you build out to the end of the yard, and what you have is utter chaos that has the potential for a health hazard in the making. What is the health department's position on this? What is the Office of Equity and Civil Rights' position on this? The clear direction that the city is moving in is to redefine what equity is and to have it align with the interests of big developers, coincidentally, before election time, so that they can continue to scramble and buy up properties and increase the rent rate, not make it affordable, but increase the rent rate to further deprive and push out the legacy communities in Baltimore City. The reason they had this hearing at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning was that they did not want any of the public to attend and express their voice. Because at 10 o'clock in the morning, the public are working. The public are trying to get their kids in school. They're trying to overcome from the tragedies of the weekend. And we need to demand a different way of recording hearings in Baltimore City. We've got a budget that is over $4.6 billion, and we can't run a hearing any better than they did in Mayberry, USA.
Well, hey, listen, you reminded me of something else, too. A few years ago, and I think you and I were both there. I remember, Jody, you were there. There was a hearing before the Planning Commission. Someone brought up the issue of our neighborhoods, our communities, and seniors who've lived in the community for many years and how the changes would affect them. And I'll never forget, and you maybe remember more clearly than I do the exact words, but Councilman Ryan Dorsey, who is the sponsor again of all of these things, I thought it was so condescending. His attitude was, well, we'll find places for them to stay if they still want to be somewhere in that neighborhood. The seniors, they may not be able to stay in their home anymore, but they can still hang around. I believe in community, I believe in family, and I believe in extended family too. And I just have a real concern about how this move is going to be, how it's going to affect communities as we go forward.
Lawrence, can I say something, please? Councilman Ryan Dorsey was the same one in the early stages of Complete Streets to say that we need to have bicycles because blacks can't afford cars. Everything that is almost done is a fallacious approach to justify plans that have been in the works for 40, 30 years or more that haven't been shared with the community. Why are there so many community engagement divisions in our city agencies that aren't engaging with community on prospective changes to the landscape? Baltimore's duty has been through the unique individual architectural fabric of many of these communities, and it's going to be destroyed now by creating these step-forward-like communities that are just boxy. They look all alike, and they're intended to be boutique ways to satisfy the needs of some exclusive group of patronage while denying the opportunities for others. And if we allow this to happen, shame on us.
Amen. Listen, thank you for what you said. Hang on, Linda, because I'm going to take some of these calls right now. You may want to jump in. Let's take another call. Who's up? Who's next? I think Lynn from Maryland. You're on the air. Yes, Lynn, you're on the air. Okay, we're having a little problem with Lynn from Maryland. And I'll tell you what, let's put that on hold. Shall we? We'll take another call while she's coming back, because she's got a lot to say. Oh, okay, she's there. Lynn? We lost her. Let's try to get her back again, because she had a lot to say about this topic. Again, the number 410-319-8888. Let's go back to, let's take another call. Hank Hackerman, how you doing?
How you doing today, Mr. Bell?
Outstanding. How you doing?
First of all, what we can do, right, is go ask Governor Moore to redo what Governor Hogan did by taking off for the destruction of property taxes, so that whoever these new people coming in would have to pay to tear down the houses, right? Like me and Mark Steiner said 7-8 years ago when Kevin Plank bought up all of the peninsula, which raised the taxes, right? So, and I believe that Ryan used to be my neighborhood council president, right? Which sold off most of Greenmount, right? And you also need to blame the Angelos, which bought everything from St. Francis to Preston Street, from Guilford to Greenmount Avenue 10 years ago, offering everybody $60,000 or less for their houses. So now that you have all of this new development going up in there, right, and nobody is saying nothing, right? We rung the bells years ago. We were ringing the bells that this was coming. They were going to regentrify our city and take it from us, right? My mother's 75 years old and owns her house, right? We have gone from 80% homeowners in our block to 45% homeowners in our block, and now they've resold houses that parents bought for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 are now going for $250,000, $280,000, $300,000. And it's not like we have not been saying this is the old bait and switch. This is a Pinocchio with a nose, and he's giving it to you without no grease. And me and Mr. Steiner said this before the radio station changed over, which was one of the reasons why they got rid of him, because they wanted new legacy in here to change so that everything would be palatable.
Listen, thanks so much, Hank, for your call. And by the way, I would encourage you all, go online. There's some videos on about the peninsula being like a ghost town. You know, I ran into a former colleague of ours, Jody, Carl Stokes, and I was saying, Carl, I remember doing a discussion about that. Carl was one of the people who did raise a bunch of red flags about that project. And right now, there's a couple of videos online on YouTube about how if you go over there, all those tax breaks they gave to wealthy people, big tax breaks, payment in lieu of taxes, pilots and TIFs, tax increment financing and all that, and it's a ghost town. Wow, look at their foresight.
Once I know he brought up a topic about home ownership, and home ownership in the city has shrunk below 50%. It's like 47%. So that's one of the things that these bills will do. It's going to reduce the level of home ownership in the city and make it more difficult for home buyers to purchase homes and stay. And you know, we do need more rental in the city, but not by devouring the existing single-family housing stock that we have. Average homeowner stays in their home for more than 10 years. The average renter turns over every 3 years.
You know, by the way, I was on the air here a few weeks ago, and I promise to get these callers in, but someone had mentioned that the governor had targeted, I think, $50 million for vacant housing. And I said, well, that's all well and good, but I'm concerned that the strategy over the last so many years is just knocking down houses, not renovating houses, not saving the housing stock. And so what can happen is over a period of time, you say, well, we cut the number of vacant houses. Yeah, you did. You just tore everything down. So half of Baltimore looks like, if you guys that are like history buffs, it looks like London during World War II when it was getting bombed by Hitler. That's what Baltimore looks like now. East side, west side. Yeah, I think it's a real mess, and we can do better. Okay, let's take these calls. Can we go back, engineer? Let's go to the man, Marvin Doc Cheatham. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you all so much for sharing this information. You, Lawrence, and definitely Linda, and everybody that's doing it. But, folks, I really think we got to get to the realization. We got to come together because many of these issues are affecting a number of us. I'm in a community that's 36,563 people. There is no community bigger than we are. But, of course, we are 95% black. Now, when things start hitting the black communities, now everybody else wants to talk about it, you know. And what I'm saying that needs to be done, some of these issues, we are letting the people know too late what we need to do and how we need to come together. I'm very appreciative of this information. But, you know, it's like some of the issues that we have here in the black community. You know, we have other communities not concerned about drug overdoses until it begins hitting some of the affluent black and white neighborhoods. We don't have a problem with the dirt that's being placed in other neighborhoods until it begins hitting other neighborhoods. I'm saying, folks, let's come together. This is an issue that we all need to get together. I got 363 vacant houses in my neighborhood. Anybody else got that many vacant neighborhoods? But I'm 95% black. So y'all don't care about my neighborhood. But now you care about it because you need our votes. We want to help all of us with this issue. But I'm saying until everybody, whether you're affluent or not affluent, whether you're black or white, until these issues hit all of us, some of us don't give a damn about black neighborhoods like mine.
Well, I think you got a great point, Doc. I appreciate it. But I'm going to ask Sonia, you know, because Sonia's been fighting in Poppleton to talk about that issue. You've been battling for a long time, too.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Doc Cheatham. One of the things when I looked at this bill was because it's a citywide bill, it seemed as though this is, yes, why so many people, you know, are coming out against it. Because looking at now, how will this impact their neighborhood? But these are some of the issues that we have been dealing with in our black neighborhoods. And because they come in demolition versus preserve, you know, in our neighborhoods, they have provided a lot of vacant space now for them to be able to redevelop. And so I see this as a way of pushing these bills through. And where these neighborhoods where there isn't any vacancy, you know, vacant properties, you know, it won't affect them. But for our neighborhoods, because they can say this is the bill, you know, for this, and now they can really come in and we won't have a voice to stand on if this passes, you know, because the majority of people, they say, well, we put this out, this was a citywide bill. Right. But it's going to impact us if these bills passes. These bills are going to definitely impact our neighborhoods, our black neighborhoods, because we are the neighborhoods where there are a lot of vacant lots and a lot of vacant lots.
You want to preserve the homeownership that you have. Speaking of that, I'm going to get to these calls, I promise. I want to get your response on something. We talked about this here on the show. There was a press conference last year where we had the mayor, the governor, congressperson, senator, everybody talking about money that had been targeted from the federal government to deal with the highway to nowhere, that area between Franklin and Mulberry. It's near you, okay? And I remember talking to at least one of those officials, and I said, well, okay, it's what is it, $85 million, I think it is? I believe that's how much it is. And I said, well, okay, that sounds good. And you talk about how that was a community of home ownership, black home ownership. My mom she was a teacher for years. And one summer she had a part-time when the regular city schools were, well, it was summer school. She actually taught at a school there. I remember when I was a kid, she took me to school when she was teaching. And I don't remember the name of the school that was right there in that area. But anyway, we know that in the 70s, eminent domain was used to basically kill that whole community.
Yes.
So my point, when I asked, I said, well, okay, you got $80-some-odd million. What is it going to be for? It seems to me that if the harm that was done is that you destroyed home ownership, black home ownership, well, then maybe the remedy should be to try to bring back home ownership, right? I mean, if that was the harm, right? And so when I'm talking, this person said, well, we haven't decided. We're thinking about open space and bike lanes. I said, oh, no, please, please, please. Are you talking to anybody in that community and asking them what they want, right? See, again, it's like the $641 million of American Rescue Act money that came to Baltimore. What is it being used for, right? I mean, maybe we need an audit. Maybe we need an audit to find out what's going on with that. But that's your community. And I hope that some folks who are listening will reach out to you, and others. I've been to some of your meetings and ask people what they want to be done with all those funds. Ladies and gentlemen, the number again, 410-319-8888. Got a full bank of calls. Let's go back to the phone lines. Can we pick up? Who's next? And I think, Linda, did you want to say something about that?
Oh, Lawrence, there is so much that, I could say, but I am just extremely troubled, as I've said already, about the rush to a decision on this when these plans have been in the works for decades and no one has publicly brought these to the public for consideration. And by the way, what is the problem with the existing system now? When we talk about repairing systems, let's talk about what's broken. The process of having folks get a permit and have a hearing on major designs that alter the fabric and landscape of the community is a process that is fair, is a process that currently works. Probably needs to be accelerated, probably needs to be streamlined, but it should work just like a CHAPS process. Why does Baltimore always have to take this one-size-fits-all approach? We're either going to do it all or we're not going to do it at all. For the communities that want it, just like Congressman Umfume said when we were dealing with the issue of complete streets, for the communities that want these alterations and changes and they agree to it, fine. For the communities that don't, they should not be forced to have it. Have it operate just like a CHAPS process.
Well, it's called democracy. That's what it is. Yeah. Democracy. We're supposed to believe in that. Sonia, what are your thoughts on that?
We talked about this yesterday, that this is something, too, that, again, you go back citywide. If it's something that we want, even the bike lanes, no, we didn't want bike lanes. When we talked about the highway to nowhere, when they're talking about with that, this putting the train, the red line, it's people who are for it and people who are against it. But they're not bringing the people who oppose and giving us an opportunity to speak against it and why. And, again, what's broken. I don't see this as a broken system.
Yeah, but you know what it's called? It's called a rigged process. That's why they're rigging the process.
And Ms. Batts makes a really good point. There is a process in place now. You can go and apply for a variance. If you want to put another dwelling unit in your home for an aging parent or a relative or a child, you can go through that process and do it. What these bills are trying to do is push more density on communities that are saying, we don't want more density.
Right.
We like our neighborhood the way it is, and that's why we bought homes
So
here.
basically what they're doing is they're pushing people out into the county, right? In a way, what it's saying is that we won't allow you to have that much space, and if you want it, you got to move out of Baltimore. I mean, unfortunately, that's what it looks like it's coming to.
And they're forcing home buyers to compete against these big investors and these real estate investment trusts who are just coming in and buying up homes, converting them to rentals. So it'll create a situation where you almost are going to be forced into renting because you won't have any other options.
And that seems to be what I'm hearing the mayor and I'm talking about in pushing this and using these as affordability. This is the only way that Baltimore can become affordable is you have to live in apartments.
Right.
You know,
and you have to have small families or not have
single person.
Right, exactly. That's the. I saw this article once in the Sun. It was an editor, it was an op-ed where this guy was saying, "Man, if they want young professionals, well, you know, I was a young professional at one time. I don't have anything against young professionals, but that can't be the entire city. You know, we have working class people, white, black, who made Baltimore what it is. You know, when I was in Atlanta, I'll be honest with you, it was interesting because Midtown Atlanta and, well, Buckhead up north and even the southern part of Atlanta, I had never seen as many quote-unquote white-collar folks. And that's all good, and I've been white-collar. But I've always felt that the flavor, the culture of a city really emanates from the working-class people, right? Now, I could go on and on about that, but it is really sad when we forget about the masses. The number again, 410-319-8888. Let's take the calls. Benta from Washington, D.C., you're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to make a couple of points. What you felt at the hearing is not your imagination. We've already been through this. I've been through it with two other situations, and I don't know why the city council members are not representing their constituents' wants, excuse me, because we were shouted down during two issues, and the city council, the Baltimore City Council, found itself on the wrong side of the law twice. And so the first issue is, how do you elect better officials? Where are these people getting their information? They're not listening. It's all very intentional. They don't want you. They changed the rules at the last minute on us. We complained about the BGE Exelon problem, where permits were just come on in. And, you know, we also have complained the same issue. We should not have to reinvent the wheel. People stood up in the hundreds almost 2 years ago at a meeting held about North Avenue Redevelopment Corporation. People stood up and said, look at Washington, D.C., and this is exactly what you're talking about, overcrowding. The infrastructure cannot sustain these types of build-ups, pop-outs. It is a nightmare, and it is a deliberate displacement of black people. At this point, you can no longer call Washington, D.C. Chocolate City. And it is deliberately, even though there is an existing consent decree that the Baltimore City Council is either ignorant about or chooses not to bring it up because they don't think the citizens understand. But there are some very bright people who have brought this up, filed in court, because after almost 100 years of redlining and discrimination, there is an existing consent decree in effect for West Baltimore. The City Council is in violation of the consent decree. And, I mean, we went through this also with you're talking about eminent domain, with Amtrak coming in. And they tore down the North and Utah Madison Park Medical Center, simply because they could do it. City Council allowed this to happen. But the important point is, it needs to be examined how these people are getting elected into the City Council. You
got a good point there. I'm going to throw this over to Jody when we come back. I got some thoughts about how that's happening. It's not like it used to be, I'll tell you that. And I even have questions about whether or not we should have I wish we still had 3-member districts. I'll be honest with you. That has changed a lot. These are now fiefdoms instead of representative districts. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to get right into it. We got a lot of callers. If you call, the line is busy. Please call again. We're going to try to get all of you in this next hour. I'm Lawrence Bell. We'll be back right after this.
He knows them because he's one of them. Music artist and all-around talent, Robert Shaheed. Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Then, on Saturdays, 5 to 10 a.m., it's oldies but goodies extravaganza. He's got the whole city in his hands. Robert Shaheed on 88.9 WEAA, the voice of the community.
Support for WEAA is provided by...
The music of Pieces of a Dream makes its way back into Keystone Corner this Thursday and Friday, September the 11th and 12th, followed by vocalist Nicole Henry with pianist Alan Johnson, Saturday, September 13th. Four Queens with Vivian Ross, celebration of Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, and Donna Summer on September the 17th. Then Marcus Johnson on September 18th, and the Blackbirds, September 19th and 20th. More information at KeystoneCornerBaltimore.com.
And members like you. Thank you.
WEAA welcomes your organization to submit a public service announcement. Events must have a date, time, location, and event details. All you have to do is send your open to the public community event 3 months in advance to justina.pollard@morgan.edu for consideration.
Morgan State University Public Radio, 88.9 WEAA FM and HD1, Baltimore.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Dan Ronan. The suspect arrested and accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk is expected to be charged with aggravated murder. As NPR's Franco Ordonez reports, President Trump says the person held responsible should be given the death penalty.
President Trump praised the collaboration between local law enforcement and federal officials. In an interview with Fox and Friends, Trump said, quote, "We got him."
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this.
The arrest follows a widespread search that began soon after the conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot while speaking at a college in Utah on Wednesday. Utah's governor said casings found along with a rifle had inscriptions that read, among other things, "Hate Fascist Catch." Officials believe the suspect acted alone, but the governor says the investigation continues. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, New York.
Republicans representing Tennessee and Washington have praised President Trump's plan to deploy the National Guard troops to Memphis, but Republicans closer to home, while supportive, are choosing their words more carefully. From member station WPLN, Mariana Bacalao reports.
U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn and Congressman John Rose thanked Trump. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee says he will be meeting with Trump to work out details. When asked about a possible deployment last month, Lee said that crime in Memphis was down 15% year over year.
We've made significant investments toward public safety in Memphis, $150 million in intervention grant funds and vast expansion of troopers there.
State senators who represent Memphis have pointed to statistics that show crime in the city is at a 25-year low. In a statement, Lee stressed that the National Guard will be working alongside local law enforcement and called Memphis a world-class American city. For NPR News, I'm Mariana Bacalao in Nashville.
Puerto Rican rapper and singer Bad Bunny says he's decided to skip touring 50 states specifically concerning about ICE. NPR's Anastasia Tiolkas has more.
In an interview with ID Magazine, Bad Bunny said he and his team were worried about ICE raids on concert venues within the United States. He said, quote, ICE could be outside, and it's something that we were talking about and very concerned about. Instead, the artist who's topped the charts with the sounds of his native Puerto Rico did a 30-date residency in his hometown of San Juan. That ends this weekend. Then he's on to Central and South America, Asia, Australia, and Europe. Anastasia Tsioukas, NPR News, New York.
And you're listening to NPR.
Good evening from the MTA. On light rail, shuttle bus service remains in place between North Avenue and Camden stations. 15 to 20-minute delays on light rail. Metro subway is on schedule. MARC trains, Brunswick 891, a 10-minute delay. Camden 855 and 850, 5-minute delays. Penn Line 641 and 430, 5-minute delays. For the MTA transit team, I'm Amy Friedman on 88.9 FM WEAA, the voice of the community.
Support for WEAA Traffic and MTA Report is provided by eBay.
88.9 FM reminds you that the views expressed on WEAA programs are those of participants and not necessarily those of Morgan State University, the staff, management, or underwriters of Baltimore's home for cool jazz. WEAA 88.9 FM.
Alrighty, we're back again for the final hour right here at WEAA. Yours truly, Lawrence Bell. I'm standing in for Dr. Kaye right here at WEAA, Morgan State University. We got a lot more to talk about, to squeeze in to this final hour. We've been talking about the city of Baltimore. Where do we go from here? I think some of the calls dropped off, but I hope you all call back again because we want to get you all on to comment. I have as a special guest in the studio Mr. Jody Landers, former city councilman and former leader of the director of the Board of Realtors, Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors. Also, Sonia Edie, who is the president of the Poppleton Community Organization. Both of you were at the hearing yesterday before the council talking about these bills that would change zoning laws and just the policy of how our communities will look in the future. I want you all to call in about this because it's affecting you. A lot of you who are listening to me are homeowners here in Baltimore City. You have something major at stake. The number to join us again, 410-319-8888. Please forgive my voice. It's off right now. I don't know what it is, hay fever or something going on in the air because it's fall, but I'm going to fight through it. I'm very concerned about this. You know something we were saying, and I want you all to know you can make a difference. Now, I understand that even though The hearing was held yesterday. The members of the committee have not voted yet. They've not yet voted. So they can be influenced. The entire council can be influenced. The mayor can be influenced, right? Hope he's listening, or somebody close to him is listening. We want you to do the right thing. This is not good for Baltimore. You know, I was thinking, though, Jody, we were talking about back when you and I were in the city council. The Baltimore City Council back then had 6 districts, and each district was a 3-member district. And I think it was better because there was some healthy competition. And, you know, if you were a council person, you had 2 colleagues in your district, you kind of had to do the right thing, because if you didn't do the right thing, somebody else would do the right thing. And now that we have these single-member districts, I believe that they have become like fiefdoms. I have experienced that. Many of us can talk about how, you know, we go to the council person with how we feel, and it's almost like they're a king. They're a king or a queen of their district. They don't do what we say. We do what they say. You know, it's not even like they're representing us anymore. And I want to remind those council people that you don't represent the mayor's office. You don't represent the agencies, the departments. You represent the people in your district. Now, somebody brought up the North Avenue Alliance, or whatever it's called. I remember at a meeting, even last year, and I went to one of these meetings, and I said, look, don't take my word for it. Don't take Lawrence Bell's word for it. I know, talking to people, that majority of people do not like what you're doing in North Avenue. They don't like what you're doing to Druid Parkway Drive. They don't like what you did to Hartford Road. I could go on and on and on. You have resources that I don't have. Why don't you do a scientific study or poll? Ask the people what they want. Just do that. Why not? That's a fair way of doing things, right? We're talking about democracy. They won't do it because they know how it will come out. They know the overwhelming majority of people do not want every 2-lane street to be squeezed into 1 lane. They know most people do not like traffic backed up to the, you know, the wahoo. They know this. But because they are very elitist in their thinking, they're doing it anyway. They're forcing it anyway, whether we like it or not. That's where we are today, and I believe that that's kind of what's going on with this issue with the housing. So we're going to get right back into this. We're going to go ahead and take a call. Cynthia from Maryland, you're on the air.
Hi, yes. So I was at the hearing yesterday. I could not stay, but I did witness the encounter between Mr. Landers and Councilman Dorsey. I did speak at the hearing that I was appalled by Councilman Dorsey's behavior, and that's how this current city council is run. I am not here for it. I think the bills are atrocious. During that hearing, it at least became apparent to me that the gentleman who sponsored the bill on the parking really didn't understand the bill. It became Dorsey and Cohen that were answering the questions. So I really don't even think that this gentleman, this is his bill, or that he's very versed in it, because other people were answering the questions for him. But this goes to show Baltimore City, in my opinion, it is very, very, very important who we vote for. It's very, very important who we support. Yes, we may have pet projects, but we need to look overall at what they're doing, because it is clear, at least in my mind, that the people that are putting bills in are really not the people who wrote them. There are people behind them that we don't see, and this particular committee is leaning toward a more a way of doing things that is not necessarily in tune with my beliefs and how I believe Baltimore should look and be represented at this day and age.
So listen, I think I agree with you. I want to ask,
and Cynthia, I just want to pick up on your point. You know, when you go to a public hearing, you really expect the presiding officer to be fair and impartial. But what we saw yesterday at that hearing was the chairperson of the committee acting as a primary advocate for both of these bills, including the council president. And that's one of the reasons I got so upset, because they gave open time to all of these proponents of the bill, and then when it came to hear from the public, most of whom were opposed, they said, oh, you have 2 minutes. I just think that was outrageous, and it's a disservice to the citizens, and it's not the way we should be running this city and debating public policy questions.
Now this is Land Use Committee, right?
This was a Land Use Committee,
chaired by Councilman Ryan Dorsey.
By Dorsey.
Let me ask you something.
He's the primary sponsor of these things. I want to make one other point, because I think this is really important. A number of these bills will not apply to neighborhoods that have private covenants. So some of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Baltimore City will not be affected by these bills.
So you're saying this won't affect it won't affect Guilford?
No, it won't affect
Roland
the
Park.
neighborhoods with private covenants. So these bills will have an impact on all of the other neighborhoods throughout the city, increasing increasing building size, reducing yard size, and then opening up, if this other bill gets considered, allowing any residential property to be converted to 3 dwelling units, but it won't apply to those other neighborhoods.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes.
I think also someone really needs to do a study, because it looks like, at least from what I'm hearing, that the one bill with the side yards and different things like that is really going to impact R8 zoned areas. It's going to impact every area, but R8 has a larger impact. And if you look, that is a lot of the black butterfly. And the people that are on this committee that are sponsoring these bills don't live in the black butterfly, right? And it becomes very interesting when I sat at that hearing and I heard them use terms to say, we have to do this citywide because of the racial impact that zoning has had on the city for years. And I'm thinking, no, what you all are doing sounds very Trumpian to me, and it sounds even more creating a racial divide, because if this is going to impact our 8 zones, and a lot of our 8, you have, in Fells Point and stuff, but a lot of the black butterfly is impacted. Where are those people? You can get Jed Weeks to send 1,000 letters, but where are the people that's really impacted? Have you done your due diligence? And I told the one gentleman I have not seen him at one of my one of my community association meetings talking about this.
Yeah, and you raise a good point, and thank you. And I remember going to that planning hearing about a year ago. It's been at least a year ago, and I was incensed that these folks keep using the same argument. They keep talking about, well, the black community, back in the day, the black community couldn't move here, there. They're using us. They're exploiting us. They're exploiting us to justify doing something that's for big developers. It's not to help us out at all, okay? And it's really insulting to me as an African-American. And by the way, Jody, something that I find very peculiar is that Councilman Dorsey, okay, he's chair of land use, but sometimes I think he behaves as though he's the actual de facto mayor of Baltimore City. Let me tell you why. I remember not that long ago, there were some discussions about Druid Hill Park. Now, I live across from Druid Hill Park, and there were talks about parking issues, okay? And it concerned me that this man, who doesn't even live anywhere near us, he's representing Northeast Baltimore, but he has more influence in terms of what happens where we are than we do. And I couldn't get that. I mean, how does he have veto power over things that are going on in our community, okay? I mean, I just cannot figure that out.
Since he's become the chairperson of the Land Use Committee, it's gotten even worse. And he introduced a bill and got a bill passed in the Harford Road corridor that will allow up to 6-story buildings within 500 feet of Harford Road. Doesn't matter what the underlying zoning is. And he did that because of councilman courtesy. So he put in a bill that only affects his district. Other council people said, oh, well, we're not even going to get into the details of it. But, yeah, he has a tremendous amount of influence because the current council president has appointed him as the chair
Right.
of the Land Use Committee.
And I hope Z. Cohen is listening to this. I saw a video where our council president was walking. He was walking across the 28th Street Bridge, which is near me. And he was talking about, we need, what they called it, what's the name of that project? The Big Jump. You may have heard of the Big Jump. Some years ago, they created this project that allows them to skinny Druid Park Lake Drive and 28th Street. So if you're trying to get, and I went through this on the way over here to the studio, from where I am, coming across the bridge, 28th Street Bridge, which goes over the JFX, the traffic is backed way back, almost to where I live. It's a disaster, especially during rush hour. And then, see, this is what happens when there is unfettered power in the hands of a small group of people. They want bike lanes. They want less street. And if you look at 28th Street, it's a disaster. It looks ridiculous. I mean, really, somebody coming from another country would think that we're crazy in Baltimore because you can't even get across the street. You can't get through. And by purpose, they have narrowed it so much because they think that they're saving the planet by lessening the carbon footprint by making it nearly impossible to drive around Baltimore City. Now, I am an environmentalist. I know you have been. We both have worked with the League of Environmental Voters, the Sierra Club. I've been endorsed by them before, right? When I ran for president of the city council, I was. I'm concerned about the environment, but I'm also about common sense and logic. And this is really tearing Baltimore apart. It really is.
We should also say, for people who are concerned about this, you can do something about it. You need to contact your city council member. You need to contact the city council president. And by all means, let the mayor know that you're concerned about the impact these bills will have on your neighborhood. Because I don't think they're here. I don't think it's filtering up to the mayor. I think he's in a he's in a bubble that he's hearing from the council president and Councilman Dorsey, who are proponents of these measures,
right,
and pushing them. So we need, as citizens, to let them know. And Cynthia made a really good point. It's not going to affect a lot of the more exclusive neighborhoods in Baltimore. It's going to affect all the other neighborhoods in Baltimore, which, by the way, now are majority black neighborhoods. And, I grew up in Northeast Baltimore. I've been there for more than 70 years. Not going to tell you how old I am.
No.
Yeah. So when I grew up there, that neighborhood was 90% white families. It's now 2/3 black families, but they bought homes. They had an opportunity to buy a home,
right,
and build household wealth and create long-term stability in the community and for their family. And so now to come along and say, we're going to change the rules.
Right.
We're going to say it's okay for investors to come in and buy any of these homes and make them multi-family dwellings. Oh, and they won't have to put any off-street parking in, and they can build bigger buildings and reduce the lot size. I think it's
devastating.
It's devastating, and it's a disservice to all of the families who've made investments in Baltimore and bought homes, whether it's in Poppleton or Lauraville or Hanlon Park or Violetville, wherever.
Right. Well, Linda Batts, I know Linda is still on the line, and she's jumping at the bit on this issue. Linda?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. And I think Jody and Cynthia and all of the others have made very compelling comments. But I also want to talk just for a quick moment and segue back to you on the conduct of the professionalism of our elected officials. There's absolutely no way, given the video that we saw of Councilman Dorsey's behavior in Lexington Market with the black
bicycle
security guard. I beg your pardon?
Yeah, he took I remember that. He took a bicycle into Lexington Market, and they told him, you can't bring a bike in here. He said, no, I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, but the point is that, these people continue, despite their conduct and despite the way that they engage and think about the urban community, the black community, they continue to be elevated with a voice over our city. And there should be some standards of decorum and professionalism that serve as the etiquette for the way business is done. Now, let me just add, Jody indicated that we need to continue to reach out to the mayor, the president of the city council, and our city council persons, and that is absolutely right. Joan Floyd, who has done some remarkable research in the area of zoning, shared that very thought with us on 10:10 a.m. the other day. Please continue to write in, document your effort on these particular bills by writing, by emailing, and retaining copies. Spread the word. Make this malignant. Spread the word and get everyone to sign a statement opposing these bills for the reasons, many of which that you've heard on the air today, and make certain that it goes to the mayor, Zeke Cohen as president of the city council, and your individual city council person.
And listen, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to write this down. Now, I don't remember every number of every department or agency, but there's one number I remember. I know, Jody, you remember this number. It's 410-396-3100. If you don't remember anything else, remember that, because that's the basic number that helps you, that gets you to the city operator. And once you call that number, again, 410-396-3100, you ask for your council person, you ask for the mayor if necessary, anybody in the city, any agency. That's the pathway, because we need to flood the lines. We need to call these council people. You know, it's late right now, but do it on Monday. Let's do a call-in. Let's call all of them and let them know that you don't want these bills to be passed that would allow our neighborhoods to be carved up. Basically allow developers to come in, take over, take single-family houses and carve them up just for apartments, little tiny apartments at that, to really destroy our neighborhoods. So we really need to do that. Again, 410-396-3100.
I have a question. We're talking about some changes. I know that during Taxpayers Night, you know, you can go down to City Hall. It starts at like 6 o'clock in the evening.
Right.
How come these type of bills are not put in at that evening hour where you can get more outcome? Is this something that we can kind of try to force, you know, have some type of policy that when there's going to be a type of impact, especially talking about citywide, there should be a time that will engage more people. So 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is not. It's not.
Well, I can answer it. I mean, that's it. They don't want people to come. They know that the majority of neighborhoods don't want this, and they're trying to force it through because whoever's backing them, they're the ones that want it. Right? I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, and I'm going to take this, we're going to go to Mitchell in just a moment. Jody, something I mentioned on the air here not long ago was that back in the day, long ago, most of your people in City Hall, if not all of them, came from maybe 3 different places. I remember we used to have political organizations. Mm-hmm. We have, of course, community groups. Mm-hmm. Okay, some folks were a leader within their community or the neighborhood association, and the church, right? Sometimes they were because they were, you know, connected with the church, or a combination of those. It's interesting to me today that so many of the people who are in City Hall, even in Annapolis, don't come from any of those, right? And I'm wondering where are these folks coming from? Who's financing them? And I think and I saw some documentaries and stuff online that suggested this is a phenomenon all over the country. You're getting, even on a local level, you're getting elected people being elected who really are not connected to everyday people in the community. And they have, unfortunately, an elitist mentality, and they're supporting policies which are out of line with the people who actually live where they're representing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
All right. Call us 410-319-8888. Mitchell, Simon, we're going to bring you on when we come back.
Support for WEAA is provided by
APG FCU Federal Credit Union, a member-owned, member-driven credit union. APG FCU membership is open to those who live, work, worship, volunteer, or go to school in Harford and Cecil counties. And now, Baltimore County and Baltimore City, federally insured by NCUA. For more information, apgfcu.com.
Maryland Public Television proudly presents the 6th Annual HBCU Week. MPT presents a week of programming that celebrates historically black colleges and universities, including the premiere of Becoming Thurgood, the story of Justice Marshall's journey from Baltimore through HBCUs, Lincoln, and Howard to the U.S. Supreme Court, as well as one-on-one with Dr. David Wilson of Morgan State University. For more information and a listing of the HBCU Week programming, mpt.org/HBCU. Syndicated Scholars. Homecoming season is around the corner, and Syndicated Scholars would like to get you ready. You can join Syndicated Scholars September 26th to the 28th for a pre-homecoming weekend filled with events to showcase school pride. There will be a virtual party walk on Friday and worship and arts luncheon to the all-alumni social on Saturday and Sunday. There's something for everyone. For more information, weaa.org or 443-292-2426. All proceeds support students at HBCUs, TCUs, and select MSIs.
And members like you. Thank you.
Not sure if you are a current WEAA member? Call us at 443-885-2075.
Okay, we are back. I'm Lawrence Bell, standing in for Dr. Kaye with my raspy voice. I hope maybe it sounds sexy to some people. Are there any ladies out? No, let me stop. I'm only kidding. I'll catch hell for saying that. It's still kind of low, but it's raspy. And I think I might have laryngitis. I was telling my brother, he's texting me saying, "What's wrong with your voice?" And I said, "Man, I'm not really sure, but it may also be allergy season." But I'm going to keep moving, and we got a bank of calls, and we're going to get to all of you. Now, by the way, let me say this also very quickly. For those, I want to keep in touch with people about this issue. We're going to get back to many of you. Those of you, check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/Lawrence Bell. That's with a W, LAWRENCEBELL. I didn't plan this, but I want to, I'm also trying to, along with this program, I'm going to try to put up some stuff on Facebook. I'm going to be launching a Facebook channel in the very near future because I want to guide people to how they can make a difference. And we got to move very quickly with a lot of these issues, right? So come, you check me out, facebook.com/Lawrence Bell. If you want to also contribute to this effort, you can, because I'm going to have to raise some funds to launch this channel that you can come back to again and again and again. And again, let me remind you again, as we said before the break, we need you to get involved quick, fast, and in a hurry before these things happen to our community. 410-396-3100. Call City Hall. On Monday, call. Seriously. So we don't want the housing in our community chopped up. We don't want private equity taking over our neighborhood. Okay, let's go take these calls. A lot of calls. Simon from Park Heights, you're on the air.
Hi, Mr. Bell. It's good to hear from you, and it's good to hear your activism. I simply want to make this statement. Part of the reason that the country is in the shape it's in, the city is in the shape it's in, is because the Democratic Party has become exactly what you described. They've become elitist. They're not interested in the people's opinions or ideas, which I'll call City Hall and I'll say what I feel. but it doesn't matter because these people who are in leadership positions don't care. They don't care what the people want, and they don't care how the people feel. They're not trying to make anything better for the people. They're working for themselves. And sadly, that has become the reputation of the Democratic Party. I can't bear to think about voting for the MAGA Republicans, but then when I look at the alternative, what good is it to vote for the Democrats? It's crazy out here. And that is the reputation of the Democrats. They're not looking for opinions. They're not looking for consensus. They're not looking for the majority. They really don't care. And that's part of the reason why they don't put it out there. That's part of the reason why they don't come out and meet the people at community meetings or anything like that. And it's a sad day.
It is a sad day. Thanks for your call.
The people.
I'm letting him go because we got a bank of calls. We got only a few minutes to get everybody in. And by the way, the views and opinions of the callers and myself, for that matter, do not reflect or necessarily reflect the views of WEAA today. Today with Dr. Kaye or Morgan State University. But this is a discussion that needs to be had, and I hope that you all are listening in. We're talking about democracy. I also think that we are dealing with the remnants of COVID-19. We were talking during the break about how elected officials in Baltimore had closed down City Hall, and a lot of them stopped going to community meetings. I'll be honest with you, right? And because of that, I'm talking about from council all the way up to the mayor. And so they're isolated. And it's funny because they're not getting out there to hear the flack, which you need to hear sometimes, right? I remember as a young man, as a young councilman, I can name some neighborhoods where I had to go in and really hear it, man. And it wasn't even, I remember Harlem Park was one of those neighborhoods. I remember going to a community meeting in a church, and I walked in, and the leader, she says, oh, yeah, Councilman Bell up there. Don't hide. Come down there right now. I was a little kid, right? She's talking to me like that. I'm like, oh, man, wow, you know what I mean? But she told me, I remember this leader said to me, we don't hate you, we love you, but we want to school you. And when I felt the concern and the pain that these people have been going through, I couldn't get angry at them at all. It's not enough to say it's not my fault, it's the fault of the mayor or whatever. Their job as council people is to represent the people, and they need to do that. Let's go take a call. Mitchell from Northeast Baltimore, you're in the air.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Man, I agree 100% with the last caller about the Democrats. I'm an independent now. I'm really frustrated. I've been a lifelong citizen of Baltimore City. Grew up on North Avenue. Decided to buy a house in 1999. I've been in my house for 20, going on 27 years in Northeast Baltimore. And the things that they're doing, I'm having some issues that I started dealing with 14 years ago. And I've been bringing it. Brandon Scott, Mayor Scott was my councilman. I talked to him about things. And then they turned their back on you. There's other people in the city that call about issues. And everything that the previous caller said, and what you've been saying, Mr. Bell, about them being the leaders, how they look at you. I went to the most recent hearings about the water bill rate increase, and talking to the council president and also the gentleman that handles the finance. I can't Henry, I believe, and they look at you like you nothing, like you're an idiot, like you. And I'm sick of it. And people in this city have to wake up, stop having their heads buried in the ground. But what was that? Mark O'Malley, when he was the governor, he had legislation to change where when you went to Baltimore City Public Schools, all you needed was to have a grade of 60. So you just think about that's been like 20-something years ago, and then you think about the generation that's out here now, and you get 60% of understanding things, how to deal with, how to live in life, how to live in this country, how to deal with this world. And so they dumb down the population. You got the older population that's dying off, like who I'm becoming. I'm 57. And it's just shame. I'm very angry. I'm dealing with another issue where
listen, Mitchell. Mitchell. Hang on. I'm going to let you go mainly because I can't hear you that well. We don't have a good line there with him, but I appreciate his comments. The city can do better. You know, can I get an amen to that? Let's take another call very quickly. Jay from Baltimore, you on the air.
Yes, good evening, good evening. I'd like to warn or caution some of the callers regarding, I'm an resident independent since 1996, the second Bill Clinton election. I dropped out of supporting Democrats wholeheartedly, independent. But in light of the current political atmosphere we have, all the negative talk about Democrats, they are the only chance we have to get rid of these fools, these Republicans, under Trump. So now all the negative talk, we can solve the issues within the party, within the House, that we all, those of us who are opposed to Trumpisms and all those people. But because once you water down the desire to participate, because the Democrats are elitists, the Democrats are that, the other. First, get rid of these other people in power. First, let's want Andy Harris and his types to run the state of Maryland. That's one thing. It's just a warning.
Well, look, Jay, let me say this to you real quick, and I appreciate what you're saying. The first hour of the program, I was mostly coming down on Trump and Trumpers, or Trumpeteers, what have you. Yeah. What we're doing, I believe, is we're trying to provide a roadmap to the Democrats for how you can win next year. If you want,
by beating them up. Yeah, that's
no. Because look, Jay. Let me say this to you. Now I'm putting him on hold because we got to get these calls in. I believe that the midterm elections will be a turnout election. Okay, we're not changing a lot of people's minds. Basically, it's about getting a turnout of your people, whether it be Republican, Democrat, or whatever, right? And what I'm saying is that to turn people on, to turn their own people on, their own registered Democrats on, and reach some independents, these are the issues that the Democrats have to address if they want to win, right? If they want to win. It's not enough just to say that Donald Trump, he's the devil, he's bad, and vote for us because we're not as bad as he is. That's not enough. You know, they've got to, I mean, the Democrats, that is, have got to offer something that will turn people on and turn people out to the polls, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. And so we're explaining to them, this is why, right now, Trump is below 40%. I think he's like around 40 or below 40% in terms of his favorability. But there was a Gallup study that came out recently that said the Democrats as a whole, nationally, are down around 20%. So the Democratic favorability is even lower than Donald Trump, okay? Notwithstanding all the wild and crazy things that Trump has done. So if the Dems want to win, and they claim they want to win, these are the things they need to deal with. And it's always been said that all politics is local. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
And when you pass those bills during COVID, the American Rescue Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Transportation, the Infrastructure Bill, trillions of dollars, more than even back in the 30s when Roosevelt was president. And then on the local level, we don't see where that money is making a difference in the lives of people the way it ought to. Something's wrong. We got to deal with that. Okay, let's go back and take another call, very quickly. Tom from Mount Vernon, you in the air.
I am, my friend. I will be brief. A couple things I'd like to say is I think that the state of the city is in right now with our children not being educated properly. They're not being educated for the 22nd century. What we have to do is have jobs for people that don't have that much education. And that means reindustrialization. Deindustrialization is what killed this city. When General Motors closed down, when Ferris Point closed down, when all those places closed down, the city fathers in the state of Maryland said, well, look, we're going to train all you people to be computer programmers now. And you can have jobs in the 22nd century. Well, it didn't turn out that way. And reindustrialization is the only way we're going to save this town. The politicians are always looking for business, like the TIS thing down at Port Covington and all that kind of crazy stuff. They're not making jobs for this. They're not helping make jobs for people in the city that don't have a high education level. Because Ferris Point, as long as you went in there, they didn't do any background checks, none of that stuff. They didn't do it in those days. They didn't care. If you showed up every day, that's all they cared about.
Right.
And I think those kind of jobs should be, we should match the jobs to what the working class we have here now. They're poorly educated, unfortunately, because the education system's so bad. We've got to match the jobs with those people instead of trying to make them have some kind of pipe dream that if they go to college, they're going to get a really good job or something when they can hardly get through high school.
Well, listen, not only that, but right now, I don't know if you've been following what's going on with AI, artificial intelligence.
Right on.
It's going to kill even a lot of white-collar professional jobs, So you're absolutely right. My grandparents came here from the South to get a good job, and my father's father, worked at Bethlehem Steel, and he had a family, and they bought a house and then another house.
There you go, home ownership.
That was really, that was it. And that's what we're talking about, home ownership and preserving our communities. Thanks for your call, Tom.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. Let's take another call. We're moving kind of fast because we're running low on time. Ronald from Baltimore. You on the air. Okay, we got Ronald. Ronald, you on the air. Okay, we may have to deal with that, but we'll take the next call. I guess Katrina, you on the air.
Hi, yes. Hi, Lawrence.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a pleasure to listen to you. You're a great substitute for Dr. Kaye.
Thank you.
I had a question because you guys were talking about the city using the money for the bike lanes. And I am disgusted by those things, and I can't believe that they use those funds for those bike lanes, my tax dollars, especially on Harford Road, and I live in the Bel Air Edison community, and I take my route to work is going through the golf course. And do you know that people have torn down? I have seen vehicles ride over the pylons to make an extra lane so they can make that right turn.
Let me say something to you. By the way, and I know that, and Jody, you're very familiar because that's your area. But I can tell you something else. We had a meeting in my community recently with the head of transportation, right? Mm-hmm. And we tried to tell her that Gwynn Falls Parkway is a disaster. Like, you cannot get through. And worst of all, emergency medical vehicles can't get through. There's no way a fire truck or ambulance can get through, especially during rush hour. Druid Park Lake Drive the same way. They can't get through. There's nowhere for anybody to pull over. So what you're saying is people literally going through the middle of Druid Hill Park. I've seen this. I've actually taken videos of it. There are fire trucks that are going through the middle of the park so they can avoid having to go through 28th Street. Now, that's insane. It violates the international fire code, which says the streets have to be at least 20 feet long, wide, but they don't care. Ryan Dorsey doesn't care. Ryan Dorsey introduced that bill, and now they can say, well, I guess you're in trouble,
it's not working.
Right? If that happens.
But it's not working. It was a waste of money. It was a waste of money because people are just plowing through them, over them, where they're not even there anymore, those little pylon sticks. And then also, like you said, it impedes with the emergency vehicles with having to get to an emergency in an effective way. And it's like, so is this a bill coming up? Is this now? Did you say that we can vote on this again? This is in the bill again?
Well, let me tell you this. Every community group, everybody listening to me right now, I would encourage you all to attend your community association meetings. Bring this up. Collectively bring it up to your council person. Let them know how you feel. And call City Hall as well. I mean, that's what we're saying today. Call 410-396-3100. Ask for your council person. Ask for the president of the council. Ask for the mayor. Flood the line. Start this Monday, okay? We're talking about legislation right now that would enable developers to come into communities where you have single-family housing, and then they can alter these houses so they can make as much money stuffing as many people in as possible. That's not in anybody's interest who lives there right now. So we want to get that word out. And I appreciate your call, Katrina. I'm going to move on only because we're running out of time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any thoughts on that, folks?
Well, the question she brought up about the bike lanes, I think that they did need to do something to create safer bike lanes, but the way they've done it is not sustainable. I mean, those little flexi sticks get knocked down. They become an obstacle to people making turns and getting past traffic who are making left-hand turns off of streets. It's become unsightly.
Right.
We need to do a better job of accommodating the automobiles, which are the dominant form of transportation. You know, there have been studies done. The number of people, or the percentage of bicycles that are used to commute, it's 2% of the total commutes in Baltimore City.
Right. So everything should happen for the 2% overrides the other 98%. And see, let me tell you something else. As I've been studying this, and I've done a lot of investigating, I honestly believe that it's not even about bikes per se, okay? Because I'm not against bikes. I'm really not. There are places in Baltimore City, you've seen these places where they take the sidewalk, the sidewalk, concrete, and expand it out into a street. Clearly it's not for bikes, it's so they can just block cars. Because I think they feel, apparently, that they're going to socially engineer people to not be able to not drive anymore, right, at all. And it's really, it is so elitist. It drives me crazy. It really does. All right, let's go back and take a call. Ronald from Baltimore, you on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I just have a question or a comment about the housing. Now, Baltimore in the late 70s, 80s, the population of the city was like 1.4 million people, roughly. Now it's down to about 430. Now, there are a lot of factors that...
No, it's not quite that low. It's
like 600,000.
Yeah, it's around 600,000.
Sorry, between 650, 630. Thank you. Now, I think one of the ways to get people back into the city is through multi-family housing. Now, it's got to be balanced and it's got to be done correctly. But to just say no to it, I don't necessarily think that's the way either.
Hold on before you say that. Now, hold on before you say that. It can be done now. Right now, if you are a developer or a single, or you just a single person owning a home, or single family owning a home, you have to get permission. All we're saying is that get permission, right? I mean, you can do that now. What we're always saying is that we don't want to open the door to say you don't have to go to get permission to do that. Am I right?
And yes, that's part of it. But the other thing is, Ronald, I agree with you. We do need more rental housing in the city, but not at the expense of cannibalizing the existing single-family rental stock. It's kind of the equivalent, if you'll accept the metaphor, of to deal with a temporary food crisis, you're going to eat your seed crop. What happens when you've eaten that seed crop? And that's what we're doing when we're taking single-family houses and converting them to multifamily houses when they're mostly in owner-occupied areas. Where are people going to buy homes?
Where families going to be. Ronald, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted you to understand that.
Okay, I definitely understand it. Now, if you look at home buying is down. Now, I know in this, I won't even name the neighborhood, but there are new opportunities for multifamily, and people are taking advantage of them because a lot of young people cannot afford to buy properties. Now, here's the issue with Baltimore. You have a ton of abandoned properties that local developers, and that's another thing I want to say, to deem it as private equity is not necessarily always true. You have a lot of local developers that are that are investing into these blighted areas and making these places multifamily to get people in and bring back life to the community. It's not corporations and private money all the time. It's local mom and pop, and many of which there's a large cadre of great black developers working out of Harlem Park to revitalize it, and a lot of their strategies are single family and through multifamily.
Well, there's some of that. Let me also say to you that a few years ago, I was on the air somewhere else when Council President Nick Mosby introduced a bill to bring back the dollar houses. And I brought Nick on because I believe that makes sense. You know, it was done back when Schaefer was mayor, when Smoke was mayor. And quite honestly, this president administration wasn't that excited about that. I mean, they fought it for a good while, and I believe that was at least partly because they are developers who they know who want those properties, okay? So, we said that, yeah, we want local people. We want local people to invest. But there were things that could have been done, I believe. For example, I think we could have used more of that American Rescue Act money. We had $641 million. Why can't we use more of that to help local people invest, to buy, to renovate? I just don't believe that the motivation has been there to do that. And Jody, as you had mentioned, when you've got to be in competition with these big developers, it's very tough.
Home buyers cannot compete. I also want to make one other point. Your point about the vacants. If this bill was targeted to properties that have been sitting vacant for a year or more, that might make sense. But this bill says any residential property could be converted to multifamily dwelling. Now, where are the investors going to go? They're going to go into the neighborhoods that are most stable, that are most safe, and where they can get the biggest return. It's not in investing in the vacants. But I think if we could target this kind of bill to properties that have been sitting unoccupied and been a drag on communities, that would make sense. But not by devouring our existing stock of single-family houses.
And what's going on right now, as we mentioned earlier, is that in those areas that are more dilapidated housing, what the policy has been is just tear it down, right? That's what we've seen. They're not trying to get people to come in at this point and revitalize these areas, right? What they're doing is tearing down. And by the way, we mentioned before that the governor has targeted I believe $50 million to deal with vacants. The question we have to ask is, what is it going to be for, right?
Can I say, even with hearing you saying you have local black people who wants to invest, one of the things that we did in the Southwest neighborhoods is we identified that a lot of our neighborhoods were still rental properties, but they have been generational renters. Mm-hmm. And so because of the high vacancy, we wanted to take those properties, those vacant properties, and first put them on the market for the legacy or generational renters.
People who've lived in poverty.
There. Right, exactly. Right. And giving them first that opportunity of home ownership. Mm-hmm. They lived there through all of this investment, and now, giving it affordable. To keep talking about how do we make it affordable, you don't have to make it affordable by increasing density. There's enough vacancy here that we can invest in these and renovate these homes. But even with that dollar house, when Mosby presented it, it was a pathway for the legacy people to become homeowners or their families. What the mayor has done with his program, he put it on where it is not affordable. If you don't have $80,000, you don't have access to it, and you only have 3 months. So who does that open up the door?
Yeah, and let me say something too.
Investors.
During that time, there was talk about providing some seed money to help people because he had a couple years to take the dollar house and bring it up to code. Right. They were talking, I think it was like $25,000, and I think, in fact, even Bill Henry, who's the comptroller, I actually talked to Bill about this. Bill used to work with you and me, Jody, in City Hall, because I think he had proposed even bringing it up to like $50,000. In other words, the city helped people get the financing, get money, and they have so many years to bring it up to code. So we can invest in our own communities.
And also allowing people, if you live there, there's a lot of incentives. If you lived in the property for 10 years, then some of the finances, the city just did away with. Mm-hmm. So it still was providing a way to stabilize the neighborhood through ownership.
Well, just real quick, one of the biggest impediments to buying a home is not the monthly payment. Many, many renters are paying more in rent than they would if they had a mortgage. The impediment is the down payment and closing costs. Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to put our attention.
You know what? We're going to do a show about that and about, I often talk about the Nehemiah project that was done back in the early 90s when I was in City Hall. In the West Baltimore, along with former then Councilwoman Sheila Dixon and Agnes Wells before Dixon became mayor. We took federal, state, local money. We took a couple blocks in Sandtown only for people who already lived there. And we said, look, we met with them, clean up your credit, get you into a low-interest home mortgage, stabilize the community. It can be done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Out of time. Call on Monday. Call 410-396-3100. Also email your representatives. And if you want to stay in contact with me on this issue, come to facebook.com/Lawrence Bell. Let's keep it going. Thank you all for listening in. And I think I'll be back on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday of next week. Okay, I'm Lawrence Bell. See you next week.
Neil Mutai here, dropping in on this show to let you know about our show, The Caribbean Affair, heard right here on WEAA 88.9 FM every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We give you a variety of Caribbean music, news, and information. That's Saturdays at 5 p.m. right here on WEAA 88.9 FM. We are the voice of the community.